Oh yeah, you guys wanted to watch the Frieren versus
Okay, third time's
Galadriel.
the charm. After being sent to the Shadow Realm twice by Toho, I hope this time I can outfox them and keep this video. I took the time to not only cut the clips that they claim were infringing copyright, I also reworked the script and added new content to clarify my points, so those who have seen the video before have something new to watch as well. Anyway, let's go. Hey kid, are you interested in a story about an overpowered elf girl who, after a tragic loss, travels through a fantasy realm to fight evil alongside diverse, quirky characters? If you thought I was talking about the Lord of the Rings of Power, you'd be wrong. Let's face it, the Rings of Power had a chance to be a good show, but ultimately failed to capture the whimsical nature of Tolkien's work.
Yeah.
Luckily, Frieren,
Can't exactly put my finger on why it totally failed, but even the male characters were jarring to me. I'm gonna maul watching this video, aren't I?
On Journey's End, or So No Frieren, is everything the Rings of Power wishes it could be, and does more justice to Tolkien's work without even using the same name or characters. But what I found most interesting is the surprising similarities between Frieren and Galadriel, as they both share similar character traits, motivations, and even some of the same flaws. Of course, just having those traits doesn't necessarily make a character well written. I know there are a ton of YouTubers who already ragged on Galadriel, calling her a Mary Sue, and even speculating that she may in fact be Sauron in disguise. So
Mary
it's great
Sue?
to have Frieren as an example of how you could make a likable Galadriel. I highly recommend you watch at least episode 1 of So No Frieren for context. It's only around 20 minutes long and you will pretty much get everything you need to know about the story and the character. And while I'm not planning to spoil anything that you wouldn't find in the synopsis, it may lessen the impact of your initial viewing experience. For fairness, I guess you can watch the first episode of Rings of Power too. Also,
No.
I gotta be honest with you, whatever character analysis I do on Galadriel may not even be accurate. Since her character is so one-dimensional, I'm afraid I might make her sound too complex and interesting than she actually is. With all that out of the way, let's start. Both Frieren and Galadriel set off on their adventure after the death of a loved one. For Galadriel, it was her older brother Finrod, and for Frieren, it was her friend and fellow adventurer Himmel. Both shows make it pretty clear that those deaths had a massive impact on the protagonists.
Full disclosure, Ring of Power was ass. Still gonna watch the next season when it drops though, because I'm just gonna hope. I'm gonna hope. My name is Rima Evenstar after all. After the Evenstar necklace in Lord of the Rings, I'm just hoping that it gets better, that they listen to criticism, and yeah.
And kickstarted the whole story. So I think it's important to take a look specifically at how those tragic events are presented to the audience. After all, if the viewers are to stick around for the journey, they have to be empathetic to the goals of the protagonists. To make the death of a loved one impactful, a writer has to make them likable or at least establish a strong bond between them and the protagonist. The stronger the bond, the more tragic the loss is to both the protagonist
True.
and the viewer. Most writers know this, so they spend time building up the loved one in the story. There are a ton of great examples. So let's see how the Rings of Power and So No Frieren handled this trope. In the Rings of Power, we get to see Galadriel's childhood and Finrod's role in it. Finrod appears to be a caring older brother and a mentor to Galadriel. At least that's what I think the show is trying to establish. The lesson Finrod teaches doesn't really make sense.
Why do all the male elves have short hair in this? Oh, hey Tenza. It sounds MLP coded blasphemy. Well, I don't remember any short-haired elf in the original movies.
Stone sees only downward. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible.
I think the writer is trying to make the scene appear more deep and profound, but lacks the wisdom to actually make it profound.
Yeah.
The worst thing is that having Galadriel and Finrod just sitting around talking in a monotonous voice doesn't help establish a strong familial bond. Not only is it visually boring, it makes the relationship appear cold and distant.
But you must learn to discern them for yourself. I won't always be here to speak them to you.
You won't?
I'm just as confused as Galadriel. Why would Finrod say that? I hope he's not implying that he will die, because the show establishes that death isn't even a concept among the elves at this point.
We had no word for death, for we thought our joys would be unending.
So technically he could always be around. Then again, I'm not sure he wants to. There's nothing to indicate that they actually like each other. When he tells her to come home with him, Galadriel just stands there and watches him go alone. Why? I don't get it. I thought they were meant to have a close relationship. Why couldn't you have them walk together, hold hands maybe? Maybe have her looking up at him while they walk next to each other. Anything to show the two are actually...
You guys can't even see me because my tracking is not that precise, but I'm shaking my time in disappointment.
Look, I know what the show is trying to symbolize with Finrod leaving her alone, but it wasn't earned yet, which is why I doubt anyone in the audience felt sad when Finrod went to war or when he was killed. We didn't even see him say goodbye to Galadriel before going to war. We don't even see anyone mourn his death besides Galadriel. And even she barely mustered out a tear. One could argue that these elves still don't quite understand the concept of death, but I'd argue it would be a good time to show them emotional and vulnerable. For such an important plot beat, the Rings of Power utterly failed to signify the importance of Finrod and the tragedy of his death. The episode is 1 hour long. Could they not have squeezed in a few scenes of Finrod and Galadriel doing something fun together, or show the moment Galadriel hears about her brother's death an adult by the time Finrod dies? Could we not have had a scene where Galadriel shows concern about Finrod?
It's like before Itachi kills like his entire family, you need to see like a bunch of scenes between him and Sasuke, like brotherly bondings and stuff.
Finrod going to another war campaign? His death could have been a warning to Galadriel about the dangers of vengeful obsessions. There are so many ways of making this good, and they used none of them. But no, Finrod was nothing more than a plot device to justify Galadriel's insane actions throughout the show. Anyway, let's see how Frieren's relationship with Himmel is handled in So So No Frieren. Unlike the Rings of Power, So So No Frieren uses a lot of visual storytelling. You can basically watch the show on mute or without subs and still follow the story pretty well. And the show uses this to great effect to establish relationships and signified narrative changes. Just look at the first interaction between Frieren and Himmel. Frieren's face is covered by the book like a wall between her and the rest of the world. Himmel calls her by her name, making her drop that wall. Look at the framing of the shot and how Frieren enters it. She could have been sitting in that shot already, but no, she raises into the frame, almost like she was in her own world until now. Despite there being 4 characters, Frieren, Himmel, Heiter, and Eisen, Frieren is almost always in frame next to Himmel, signifying Himmel's importance in Frieren's life, especially compared to the other 2 party members. The dialogue too doesn't waste time to establish who they are, their relationship, and even some future events. It feels like a natural conversation and already gives plenty of information for the audience to get a feel for each character. Much like Galadriel, Frieren has that elfish stoicism and appears detached from the other party members. Elves in this anime live for thousands of years, so Frieren perceives the passage of time differently than her human or dwarf companions. So there's a good reason why Himmel also says something along the lines of "I won't always be around," but in a much more subtle way. And it works better than the Rings of Power because it's a human telling this to an elf. Now, if this was Rings of Power, this would be the last time we see Himmel. Maybe we see him die in battle and then Frieren standing at his grave. But no, this is So So No Frieren, and it's not done making you fall in love with these characters. The show doesn't waste time developing these characters further, highlighting their core traits, their weaknesses, flaws, and their outlook on one another.
I knew the priest would be like the funny, silly guy. Like priests in anime are either like dorky, like kind of lewd at times, or maybe I'm just brain rotted. I'm gonna stop talking now.
We get to see flashbacks of their adventures beyond their heroism, which humanizes them and makes them more relatable. It does feel like these characters were adventuring for 10 years. The only one who doesn't feel that is Frieren, who sees 10 years as a measly amount of time, once again highlighting the difference in her perception of time compared to the other party members. She doesn't see the significance of a 10-year-long adventure, which foreshadows the central conflict that will occur later in the show. As the party watches the meteor shower, Frieren offers to take her friends to a place with a better view next time, in 50 years. Himmel looks concerned for a second, but simply chuckles and agrees. Again, for Frieren, 50 years is nothing, and she doesn't even entertain the idea that they won't be able to do it, and Himmel doesn't correct her assumptions. Of course, for us as the viewers, the subtle visuals make us doubt that will even happen. So now, you're probably thinking, oh, I see. They made a promise to go together. She leaves for 50 years, but when she comes back, she finds out that Himmel was killed by an evil demon, so she sets off an adventure to avenge him, right? Nope, he's alive and well, he's just old. Too old to go to see the meteor shower, causing conflict. They all meet up and go see the meteor shower. Now I got you. On their journey, a demon attacks and kills her party.
Why doesn't the priest age?
He's setting her on a revenge quest. They all successfully reach the location and enjoy the meteor shower. Unlike Finrod, Himmel is not just a plot device. He's a character with his own identity and one that is easy to like. In fact, I'd argue that we, as the audience, begin to appreciate Himmel more than Frieren does. And it's only been like 14 minutes. I don't know if you felt like this when you were watching the first episode, but the moment Frieren left, my anxiety levels were starting to rise. Throughout the montage of Frieren living by herself, I couldn't help but think about Himmel. In my mind, I was like, is he alright? Is he alive? Frieren, you fool, go visit him, damn it. And there was plenty of foreshadowing to make me feel that way. Even before they set out to see the meteor shower, there was plenty of visual storytelling that made it clear what's going to happen. This will be Himmel's final adventure.
No, I haven't seen this show. It came out fairly recently. I got really busy. It should have came out when I wasn't busy.
Once again, Soso no Frieren takes time to showcase the importance of Himmel's death by letting the audience be part of the funeral. And it's full of well thought out visual storytelling. Like this wide shot where we see Frieren at the
I'll watch
center
it.
with an empty space next to her. Think how many times we saw her in the same shot with Himmel, but now he's not there. Unlike Galadriel, Frieren understands the concept of death. She has seen plenty of it over the thousands of years that she lived, so it makes sense that she's stoic during the funeral. Some of the locals even shame her for not showing any sadness.
That girl was one of Himmel's companions. I've yet to even see her frown.
But again, for an elf, a human's life is very short and insignificant. And yet,
I'll watch
last time
it.
I played a bit more of the scene
I'll watch it after I watch the next season of Rings of Powers to cleanse my eyes.
that I should have. So this time, if you want to see the funeral scene, you're gonna have to watch the full episode. Trust me, it's done in a tasteful and artistic way and truly kickstarts the whole series. Even describing it won't do it justice. But yeah, Rings of Power wishes it had a scene like that. There was no need for any demons or villains to come in and kill the loved one. In all cases, the Himmel died the best possible way, peacefully, among his best friends. The real tragedy is Frieren realizing too late that her friends' lives are short and that she missed out on making many great memories with them. It's a far more relatable introspection that many grieving people feel. Frieren doesn't have some big bad evil guy to focus on killing to make herself feel better. She has to deal with her guilt and regret in other ways. Luckily, Heiter and Ison comfort her, letting her and the audience know that she still has two friends who are there for her, and maybe she will learn to appreciate them more. Meanwhile, I have no idea what Galadriel is thinking or feeling. I don't really know what kind of introspection she's having, besides acknowledging the horrors of war and choosing to seek out vengeance against the one who killed her brother. But not before stealing the blade out of Finrod's cold dead hands. Wouldn't it have been great to see her
so
comforted
funny.
by her friends instead? Does she even have friends? Does Finrod
No.
have any friends? Maybe that's why she chose
Isn't she? She's like a character that I think no one likes in that show. She's like not very likable.
to deal with grief in such a toxic way. By the way, do you know why she took Finrod's blade? It's because the writers thought it's so clever to have a blade symbolize Finrod. Look, it's like her brother is besides her, guiding her and protecting her. The writers didn't even realize they were literally objectifying Finrod. Would it not have been more meaningful if you gave her that blade, rather than her prying it out of her brother's corpse? Again, it would have been something to show their relationship. In Frieren's case, we see her look at the ring after the funeral, implying that it's something she got from Himmel. It's not yet clear what the significance of the ring is, but I'm sure we will find out later in the series. Himmel himself made sure that he will not be forgotten by anyone, especially Frieren. He also appears on flashbacks and in the characters that Himmel helped in the past. His existence improved many lives and inspired many heroic deeds. It's a presence that never leaves Frieren's side, even if Himmel is dead. Finrod, on the other hand, he has one statue, I guess, amongst other elves who died in battle. He doesn't appear exceptional in that way. And again, because we never see any more scenes between him and Galadriel, it's really hard to empathize with Galadriel's quest. So I guess the blade is better than nothing. They could still do something with it. It could be used like Luffy's hat, where she gives it to someone important to her, but they don't, so I don't know why I'm bringing it up. But you may be thinking, Trend, we hear you. These scenes are important, but what about the main characters? Which elf girl is better? What makes them similar or different? Okay, spoiler warning for episodes beyond the first episode. This is for both Frieren and Rings of Power. If this video
So what's her quest then?
is not taken down, you will still be able to come back and watch this video fully. Look, I think it's pretty obvious which character will be better written. But you're right, I did say there's a lot to compare between Galadriel and Frieren. I don't really subscribe to the idea that Galadriel is being a Mary Sue. While the show is definitely trying to portray Galadriel as a tough and capable warrior that is liked or feared by others, her actions and dialogue make her out to be a highly flawed character. Remember when I mentioned elven stoicism? Yeah, Galadriel struggles with that one. In many scenes, we see her barely holding her emotions in. She always looks like she's about to snap. You know you're in trouble when Sauron tells you to keep it calm.
Show some restraint. Let's try not to antagonize these people.
Then if blood be the price of passage, I will pay it. But one way or another, I will depart.
If she had Darth Vader's force choke abilities, her arm would get tired from using it too much. The only time I remember seeing her happy is when she's riding that horse. And it's such a brief moment that the filmmakers decided to slow-mo that scene, just to have a longer take of her smiling.
God, that seems demonic.
Arguing, whining about her trauma, glaring at people, or standing around like an idiot. Look at this scene where the volcano is erupting and molten rocks are falling on the villagers. Galadriel, why are you standing there? Rocks are falling, people are dying. Aren't you gonna help them? Show some leadership? Hell, some self-preservation perhaps. Why are you standing there looking confused? It's not that difficult to understand what's happening. Go, help them.
I hate when they do that in movies. They stand there for so long, or they talk for so long.
Oh, okay, I'll guess you'll die. When she's not acting like an idiot, she finds a way to make herself more unlikable. Every reply she says sounds like the renegade option in a video game.
I will take my chances on the skiff.
With the shout for your minders.
Suppose the words never manage to escape your throat.
You do well to identify what it is that your opponent most fears.
And exploit it.
No.
Surprisingly enough, I think Galadriel's likability comes out most when she's interacting with Hilbrand. I'm not gonna lie, there is a sort of chemistry between the two. It's not as strong as Frieren's and Himmel's, but it is there.
Don't tell me. Tavern brawl.
Sedition.
Much like Frieren, Galadriel struggles to relate to others, but in a slightly different way. She lacks manners and diplomacy skills, often treating others as lessers.
Who is this mortal who speaks to me as if he has the slightest idea who I am?
So she often makes her own mission more difficult. That's why it's nice to have Hilbrand trying to help her navigate social conventions.
So by your standards, I am in this cell because I am yet to identify what the Queen most fears.
My very low standards, yes.
And I suppose you did, having met her for all of a few moments.
During which you managed to demand a ship, insult her people, defy her orders, none of which quickened her pulse.
He's also the one who makes her acknowledge her own flaws and open up more.
I have been searching for my peace for longer than you know. Please, for both our sakes, let me keep it.
Yeah, true. The villain's the good guy there. I thought they were making her like a shonen protagonism, just Hodor, just a strong character with not much else, and every other character is supposed to make. Because they do that sometimes the main character is like the most bland character, but the side character is what makes it interesting. But the side characters around her aren't interesting either, so it doesn't work.
Perhaps some peace could do you good as well.
There is a semblance of a good character dynamic there. However, it would be better if they weren't Galadriel and Sauron, because I don't like the idea of this Galadriel becoming the kind and caring Galadriel from The Lord of the Rings because of Sauron's guidance. It just doesn't...
Oh my god, it just hit me that she's supposed to be her. What? That's like too... I'm just remembering watching all of this stuff about this show, and wow. Yeah. Jesus, it's bad. I remember that was what I was thinking. I was like, this isn't like Galadriel at all. Like a totally other character. Like, the elves are a little stoic because they act like a highborn, but they're always like very graceful and principled.
I feel right.
It's not poison, if that's your concern. Not for humans, anyway.
But let's be fair, Frieren also has immature qualities. But much like the funeral scene, everything is spaced out to make sure the audience actually likes Frieren and relates to her despite her quirks and shortcomings. The early episodes of So No Frieren are all about establishing characters and the world. She's a stoic, intelligent mage who likes to collect spells. While appearing to be calm and collected, she's not beyond getting into trouble, being lazy, naive, or quirky. More importantly, she's quite detached from others, often struggling to relate to humans and their sentimentality. It's only after Himmel's death does she begin to address her flaws. But even then, we see that it's a slow process and not one that she can overcome on her own. That's why Fern, an apprentice that Hytor left for Frieren to take care of, is such an important character in the story. Remember when I told you about my frustration with Frieren when she was wasting her time while Himmel was getting old? That's basically Fern. She's there to spur Frieren on to stop her from wasting precious time. Unlike Himmel, Fern is not going to chuckle 50 years away. Look at the fear in her eyes when Frieren says she will end her search soon. Fern works great as the audience's POV and lets them explore Frieren's more vulnerable and relatable sides. It's something that the Rings of Power is not willing to do with Galadriel. I don't know anything about Galadriel. I only know her quest for revenge, but that's about it. She's basically Xandar from Drawn Together.
I am Xander. I'm on a never-ending quest to save my girlfriend. I'm on a never-ending quest to save my girlfriend. I am on a never-ending quest to save...
But even Xandar had more personality than Galadriel. Unlike Galadriel, Frieren doesn't sit around on her rank or laurels. Even though she defeated a Morgoth-sized enemy and became the hero of the land, Frieren isn't above helping villagers clean the beach or summon some flowers to make the garden look nice. But here's the cool thing. Frieren takes 7 episodes to finally introduce a real threat, and many viewers who had fun watching this quirky elf will be taken aback by the change in tone and Frieren's behavior. As the audience, we don't even need to know
that? Is that the villain? I like them.
Story between Frieren and demons yet. The shift in her character is enough to indicate how she feels about them and lets us infer what may have happened in the past. This part of the story is also where Frieren and Galadriel are the most similar. Both elves hate
He's hot. Yeah, I'm gonna watch that show.
the main monsters that they battle, and they execute them without remorse.
Let's talk this...
Surprisingly enough, Galadriel is actually the more merciful between the two elves, as she has concerns over what her pursuit of vengeance is turning her into.
Before I drive my dagger into your poisoned heart and your piked ear, that all your offspring are dead, and the scourge of your kind ends with you.
See, I'm not the only elf alive that's being transformed.
Wait, that's the dude from Game of Thrones. That's Jon Snow. That's Jon Snow's uncle. I don't remember who the fuck this character was. I think I blocked that whole memory of this series out of my mind. And Rings of Power Galadriel always looks constipated, like literally no other expressions than that expression. I feel like they just casted her because of her eyes. Like her eyes are very like cat-like, and it's a very interesting shape. Like she has an interesting face, but aside from that, honestly, it's a writing at the core. It's a writing mistake at the core.
Goodbye.
Yeah, it's Uncle Benji.
It's not a bad idea, and if executed well, I'd actually have to give a point to Rings of Power for this one. And so no Frieren. Frieren remains as cold as ever when confronted by demons. She's not conflicted by her actions at all. And while the show gives us good reason to hate demons too, you can't help but feel sorry for them. Yes, demons have no empathy, they're just evil, so you shouldn't feel sorry for them. But I do, because this brutal depiction of demon slaying does portray Frieren as a danger, and makes her out to be as deceitful and merciless to demons as demons are to others. But if you want to debate the ethics of slaying,
The demon girl was cute. I feel bad when demons die sometimes in animes. Depends of their like little backstory. Because you always see some flashbacks or you get a little backstory of them before they die. And that's the few seconds where you have to decide if you're going to feel bad for them or not.
these demons, there's a video for that. I'll see you in the comment section.
Oh.
On one hand, it makes Frieren appear like a badass demon slayer. On the other, I'm concerned that the show will not have any stakes or threats coming from the demon side anymore. And yes, you can say that no Frieren is not solely about slaying demons, but I do want to see a bit more conflict there too. Apparently manga readers mentioned I don't need to worry about that, so I'll take their word for it. Of course, I heard that one from manga fans before, so I will keep an eye out. I want to see Frieren take damage or at least break a sweat. Otherwise, that'll be another thing that Frieren and Galadriel have in common. In terms of who did it better,
I'm sure she's gonna break a sweat. How do I always somehow pause on the feet? I'm not doing it on purpose, I swear. You gotta build the anime till there first. You know, obviously, the main character is very strong and he's gonna win all of his fights, but then comes and that's just to make it so you understand how fucking broken the next villain's gonna be, because the protagonist is gonna struggle.
Pretty sure you can all agree that Frieren has the upper hand. The anime just gives so much more details about the characters, their personalities, their little quirks. It's something that the Rings of Power should have really done with Galadriel. They desperately needed to flesh her out more and strengthen her relationship with Finrod. But the Rings of Power is not just about Galadriel. There's a ton of side characters and side plots that ultimately take away screen time from Galadriel. And unfortunately, none of those stories provide any value to the Tolkien fan.
I hated the cast for her best friend. God. The only the storyline that I liked in Rings of Power was the one of Gandalf. Like, falling from the sky Gandalf. And he was like, I don't know, like a nature man. I don't even know how to explain it. Comet guy. It was cute.
Like Lord of the Rings and you're willing to give anime a shot, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what So-So no Frieren can offer. Thank you for watching the video again. I hope this one will manage to stick around. I appreciate the support I receive from my subscribers who watched the video twice now. I am still a bit of a newbie YouTuber, so I can use these situations as a learning opportunity. If you are new here, I hope you enjoyed this video too. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this.
That was a good video. Damn, it's a re-upload and 250k views. It's pretty good. Oh, it's a very small channel.